that may trigger the next insurance company. What's the name of another insurance company? ICO. ICO might say, you know what, we're willing to take the risk. And then we share because you bring in the customer. So AI, automation, blockchain for settlement. So it's a combination of many things. That's just number one. Then in terms of settlement of, premiums, now, we have a relationship with an insurance company. We build them a solution to help their agents in the field, we call it cashless card in those days. And that worked really well to a certain point. So in terms of settlement, blockchain will be an ideal solution for them. So for example, Niger Insurance will have Niger token. That's their native utility token. And then the other insurance company will have theirs. That's number one. So their customers can use that to settle premiums, or they can be able to accept other tokens issued by other entities as well, seamlessly. I couldn't demonstrate token-to-token transfer during my presentation. And I think that is the scary part about blockchain. Because I gave those guys about 6 token numbers, and they were able to settle bank account and stuff like that. But it doesn't end there. The key is those 6 guys can actually exchange value among themselves without touching the financial system, without touching NIBs. And the danger is if a financial institution, insurance or whatever, if you're not plugged into all this blockchain technology, a lot of transactions can occur. Going by what you're talking about, cloud, a lot of transactions can occur in the cloud. And the only time a bank or other financial institutions will be able to have a taste of commission from that transaction is when the cloud rains. That is when you want to take Naira out of your system. Otherwise, a lot can happen up there.
It's interesting as a layperson, I guess I would say, in this industry to hear all this conversation. And one thing I would always want to ask is how do we translate this to the average Nigerian, an average business person who might need to look at blockchain to see how it might help their business? How do we just translate it to even students to tell them that there's a whole future out there, the future of work, how AI and automation and artificial intelligence and all these things are going to change the jobs that they do?
Right.
Where does that conversation come in?
Again, my presentation, there's an audio. To me, it's like 1992, 1993 internet era again. If you could cast your mind back to 1992, 1993, dial-up. Can you even think about YouTube that time? Can you think about Twitter? Can you think? So, but then it was cool then. You were able to pull your email, and that was it. So we are at that point with blockchain, in my view. So what that means is that there's so many things on the horizon that you and I cannot even think about, but coming. There's going to be a succession of development and innovation one after the other. So a lot is coming. So to an average Nigerians or student that you mentioned, it's going to be gradual. Even mobile telcos in Nigeria, when they started, remember, SIM card, 25,000 naira. And, and my issue then was, how is a lay person going to be able to operate these phones? So many functionalities. Today, all of them are on Facebook posting their selfies. So it's going to take time. For me, those who are aware, those who have the knowledge and experience, they should just move ahead. And they're the ones to be able to teach others, but they can't wait for them to catch up. You just have to move ahead and then impact the knowledge on them down the road.
Okay.
Can I add something really quick
and
just
I was
to that?
coming to you. Go ahead.
Well, I would say that it's important that we change some of the messaging too. So for trying to encourage people to get involved in AI, for example, there's a lot of language out there that says AI is going to take away everyone's jobs. And we need to change that message around to say AI is going to create jobs surrounding AI. It's going to create the new jobs. There are jobs that are going to go away because of it. That is true. But it is more than likely going to create its own set of jobs that are even more specialized and more than likely worth far more money than what was there before. So we need to, instead of promoting the defeatism that is often there, oh, it's ruining everything, that's that fear of change that we've talked about today, we instead need to highlight the opportunity that it creates. And that's a message I would encourage everyone to take out, is to say this isn't something to be afraid of. Yes, it's change, but we need to embrace it because there is something better on the other side of it.
Okay, so staying with you and staying with the conversation sort of in the insurance and medical field, there are blockchain implementations coming to track the pharmaceutical supply chain. Now, what's particularly driving some of this, and how far do you think they're going to go, but how far are they even now?
How far it's going to go is, it's one of those things where you can see momentum coming and the momentum's building. So how far is difficult to imagine. Probably one of the biggest drivers is I believe it's the SQDA is what it's called, the Software Quality Distribution Act in the U.S., which was passed all the way back in 2013. And that's the speed of regulation for you, right? 6 years getting ready to be 7 years. Next year is, I think, when you're going to first start to really see implementation of it. And what it is about is it essentially mandated the industry, and it was one of those principle-based things where it says, look, people in this industry, which is the supply chain for drugs, you have to be able to track things from the beginning to the end. It didn't tell them how to do it, and blockchain was kind of bubbling a little bit, but you can bet that a regulator really had no concept. And they just said, you have to be able to meet this sort of standard of following it from beginning to end. And that is just one launch point. As they started to say, okay, how are we going to do this? Other prospects started coming into play. This is ways that we can share information. We can not only meet the government regulation requirement of we have to know that this happened, but now everybody can participate in it. And that's part of that blockchain notion, is distribution. Well, we all have a copy of the ledger, and it means that as I'm watching transactions happen to be validated, I now know, hey, this is the step where I come in, and I can see it coming, and I have this historical map of it that I can apply technologies such as AI to. So there's this hidden motivation that's there that says, wow, I'm now getting this data stream here that I can act on. And that throttles other things, because industry, including non-lay people, as a CEO, I sit there and I say, wait a minute, this is letting me do all these other things. So when this next project comes through that says we want to use blockchain for this other thing, they say, I remember this blockchain thing from over here. It made me a lot of money. And it's very motivational. So throughout medicine, throughout insurance, in medicine you'll see it on people. You're going to see it tracking patients around the hospital. You're going to see AI around looking at that stuff, not only for accountability, but now I'm going to go back at it and look at efficiency. And that can be from who moved people, how long were our delays, all that. There's a set of information that you know is going to be out there, and that you can do comparisons versus other similar organizations to say, how are we doing?
Robert, you want to add to that?
So, no question. You don't expect too much from government, because I was talking about industry standards, and legislation goes very slow. In the EU, we have the GDPR. It took, including commentaries and preparatory work, it took maybe 30 years to implement. But are you expecting too much from the government, or?
Well, I think one of the things that regulation gives us that I meant to point out earlier is one of the reasons people are waiting on it is there's a validation element of it. When the government starts saying, well, you have to do this and you have to do this, people look at it and they say, oh, well, this must be real if they're regulating it. And so now I'm more willing to do it, and I feel like I'm protected, even if the government has no idea, even if the government is essentially putting a bit in and horse reins and trying to haul it back. all of a sudden I feel safer because I feel like somebody's watching over this. So just participation of any sort has its own power to it. We're really going to have to watch that impact. The SQDA, I think, is a good example of that principled approach that Joel mentioned, and it allowed innovation to figure out how to get it done right. And the thing that we're going to have to watch out for on the flip side of it is things like, if you watch the hearings that have been had with Facebook around Libra, everyone's so afraid of losing control. They're talking about just shutting this down, breaking Facebook up as a monopoly, whatever it is, because of that fear factor. And that's a risk that we have where innovation gets muted because of that fear and what they're hearing from their constituency, whether it's lobbyists or it's voters.
So Robert, let me stay with you on that. He talks about fear, and he mentioned it in the first panel, and even using Facebook is a really good example. Do you, I wouldn't say are you afraid, but do you have concerns that regulation, whether it's too much, not enough, whether it's principles or by the rules, can mute innovation? And as we talk about the future of blockchain, what kind of regulations do you think we should expect as blockchain gains momentum?
Still, it's a hard question what to expect. I don't expect too much from regulation.